So one thing you've heard me mention in pretty much every build video I've posted over the last 3 or 4 weeks is the fact that since the start of Year 6 Season 3 and the addition of the new global modifiers, we're getting a lot of players out there who are truly trying out builds that they've never tried out before. Now with that being said, one thing I try to do here at the channel is every few weeks I want to revisit a handful of builds that I'm using on a regular basis, and we are going to continue that series today. And in this video you're going to see a Refactor build, a hybrid build, as well as a Pestilence build. Now one thing I want to mention as we move on is the fact that every single build video I'm going to highlight during this season is going to be completely and totally viable without any of the modifiers turned on, but I am here to tell you, my fellow agents, look, if you're like me, let's say last season you didn't touch the modifiers at all, I'm telling you right now, you may want to rethink it this season. It is so much damn fun to use. Now if you have no idea how to unlock the modifiers, I will leave a link to a video I posted a little while back going over all of those details. And on that note, I'm going to leave you with the build breakdowns and some gameplay footage. I sincerely hope you enjoy it. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Let me know of any other questions you may have, and with that being said, let's jump right to the footage. Now starting off with the specialization, you can see I'm using Technician. Doing that for a few main reasons. First of all, you do get that extra skill tier, which allows you to change the core attribute on one of your other pieces to armor or weapon damage. You also get an extra 12% damage bonus to drone, skill proxies, and robotics. So if you happen to use this build, which you can, on legendary difficulty, you're going to run into a bunch of those, so that definitely helps out. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now my primary for this build is the Harmony rifle because of its talent perfectly in sync, and this just happens to be my go-to weapon when it comes to a skill build. Now if you do not have this weapon, you can use any other rifle with the regular talent in sync. I can promise you that can still get the job done. And if you are trying to pick it up, it is a PvP exclusive, but you can also get it from named caches. Now my secondary is the capacitor. As I've said in previous videos, this is a must-have exotic. Now thankfully this is in the general loot pool. Another option if you don't have this weapon is the test subject. That also has the talent perfectly in sync, and if you are trying to get the capacitor, I recommend hitting up the summit or countdown, set your targeted loot to assault rifle, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Now when it comes to your sidearm, one thing I like to highlight anytime I put a skill build together is if you happen to use the TDI card custom, which does have a skill tier, always remember that skill tier is only going to be active when you're actually using the weapon. It needs to be in your hand, so please make sure you take that into consideration anytime you're putting a skill build together. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see I'm running 2 Hannah U and 4 of the new Refactor gear set. I cannot put this down. It's so much damn fun. Anyway, running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses, 2 pieces 15% status effect, 3 pieces 25% skill damage, and 4 pieces return to sender, where you're going to receive repairs of 10% of the damage dealt by your skills, and your allies are going to receive 20% of the damage dealt by your skills as well. So it's great for solo or in a group, and I know for a lot of players out there, let's say you've been struggling between challenging and heroic or heroic and legendary. This could be one of those gear sets, as I was mentioning earlier, that could help you actually get past something you've been struggling with for a while. Now moving on to the body armor, it's the first of 2 pieces of Hannah U. Now you can see the 2 pieces are going to give us 10% skill haste and 10% skill damage. And one thing you'll notice is on every single piece of gear, I'm going to stack skill damage and a combination of skill haste or skill duration everywhere I can. Now as far as my talent is concerned, I'm using Glass Cannon. All damage you deal is amplified by 20%. All damage you take is amplified by 50%. And in both the comments sections of the previous videos I posted around this gear set, which again I will leave a link to in the video description, everyone said run 2 Hannah U, do Glass Cannon and perfect combined arms, which we'll get to in a second. Y'all were right. It's absolutely f***ing lights out. It's so much damn fun. Anyway, now we have the holster, the knee pads, and the gloves, 3 final pieces of the Refactor gear set. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack, which is that second piece of Hannah U. We are using the name bag force multiplier. It does have the talent perfectly combined arms. Again, it's one of the best talents in the game for a skill build. And as we wrap this portion of the video up, please remember that this is just a template. This is one of so many different ways you can run with a build like this. The most important thing is to truly take your time, make a build your own, try out different variations. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using my 2 favorite in the game, and that is the assault drone and the assault turret because I just like the way they handle. But again, if you prefer something else, use that instead, my fellow agents. Hope this video helped you out, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Rogue agent detected. Hostile Restorer Hive detected. Hostile Striker Drone detected. Hostile Shock Trap detected. Rogue agent eliminated. Supply room access unlocked.
Starting with the specialization, I'm using Technician. A few main reasons for that. First of all, it's going to give you an extra skill tier, which does allow you to change one of the core attributes on another piece of gear to armor or weapon damage, depending on what you want to roll with. This also has access to the Talent Overclock CPU, which is going to give you an extra 10% skill damage bonus. And remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, always make sure to have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus, regardless of which one you're using. Now, my primary for this build is the Capacitor Assault Rifle. As I've said numerous times in numerous videos, this is a must-have weapon for every single player out there. Now, if you have never gotten it before, you can get it guaranteed by completing certain challenges in the summit. However, you can only do that once, and for those of you out there who have gotten this in the past and accidentally deleted it, or you want to get a second one, it is in the general loot pool. I recommend hitting up the summit or countdown, set your targeted loot to Assault Rifle. Now, the reason this is so effective, especially with a hybrid build, is not only because of its talent, where shooting enemies builds stacks to a cap of 40, and each stack is going to grant 1.5% weapon damage, but for every skill tier you have in this build, you're going to get an additional 7.5% weapon damage as well, which means because we are sitting at skill tier 6, we are getting an additional 45% extra weapon damage on this thing. And remember, because it's a hybrid build, we want that balance between weapon damage and skill damage. Now, for those of you that may not have the capacitor, I recommend using the Test Subject Assault Rifle that has the talent perfectly in sync on it. And as far as your secondary is concerned, put whatever you want. You can see here I'm using an Urban MDR with a regular talent in sync. I can promise you that can still get the job done. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we are running 3 Refactor, 2 Hannah U, and the Ninja Bike backpack. Now this has the talent Resourceful, which simply means even though we are only wearing 3 pieces of the Refactor, we are going to get that 4-piece bonus, which is exactly why we are wearing it in the first place. Now 2 pieces 15% status effect, 3 pieces 25% skill damage, and 4 pieces return to sender. And with that talent, you're going to receive repairs of 10% of the damage dealt by your skills, and your allies are going to receive repairs 20% of the damage dealt by your skills. So whether you're running solo or in a group, this thing is absolutely lights out. Next, we have the body armor, which is the second piece of Refactor, and because we're wearing the body armor, we have the talent Increased Interest. That's going to increase repairs received from return to sender from 10 to 25% for you and from 20 to 35% for your group. So again, you're basically being a hero. Now, one thing I want to mention really quick as we move on is that you do not want to use this build in countdown, because if you do, at the very end, the hunters are going to hack your skills, your drone, and your turret, and they're going to murder everyone around you. Then no one's going to want to be your friend. You've heard me say it before. Do not put any hackable skills in your loadout when you're playing countdown. So consider that your fair warning. Next, we have the holster, which is the first of 2 pieces of Hannah U, but again, because of the Ninja Bike, we do get the 3 brand set bonus. We got 10% skill haste, 10% skill damage, and 15% weapon damage. And one thing you'll notice is on every single piece of gear, I'm stacking skill damage and a combination of crit hit chance or crit hit damage everywhere I can. Next, we have the knee pads, which is the 3rd and final piece of Refactor. Finally, we have the gloves. That's the 2nd piece of Hannah U. And as you can see, obviously, we have the Ninja Bike backpack. Now, as far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the assault drone and the assault turret. However, feel free to use any other skills that you want in its place. Totally up to you, my friends. Now, in the gameplay footage, you're going to notice I do not have the modifiers active, just to give you an idea that this build can still get the job done without them going. Now, in full transparency, I'm pretty much using the modifiers non-stop, so if I were to have them on in this version of the build, my active modifier would be Overdrive. I would then have Critical Momentum, Critical Recovery, and Aggressive Drone, but again, you do have a lot of different combinations. Hope this video helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. Most of you know by now that one of my favorite aspects about putting these build videos together is the family that we have here at the channel, so if you happen to have any tips or tricks you want to pass along to new and returning players, please let me know, as the main goal is to help out as many people as we can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage with commentary. However, I want to take a moment as always and thank you for your incredible continued support of this channel. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the build breakdown, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out, and if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. Now, with the specialization, I'm using Gunner, and the main reason for that is because it does give me access to the Banshee Pulse, which I like to switch to on the fly depending on what I'm doing in the game. You do have different options as well, but always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, based on the title of this video, you know that my primary weapon is the Pestilence. This is a must-have exotic for every person out there. And I don't know what's taken me so long, or why, excuse me, it took me so long to use this thing on a regular basis, but now that I have, I don't think I can stop using it. Now, the reason it is so effective is because of its talent, Plague of the Outcast. And with that talent, hits apply a debuff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This is going to stack up to 50 times. And whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to the next enemy within 25 meters. Now, like a lot of players out there, I find myself getting into this pattern where I use the same primary weapon non-stop, you know? I mean, I did that with the Scorpio, I did that with St. Elmo's, and when I actually branch out and try different weapons, it's so much damn fun. So anyway, I do recommend you try this thing out. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see I'm running 3 Lengmo, 1 Overlord, 1 Petrov, and the Coyote's Mask, which you can see on screen right now. Now once again, just like the Pestilence, this is a must-have exotic, and thankfully both of these are in the general loot pool. So for those of you out there who may be trying to pick up one of these items, I recommend hitting up the Summoner countdown, set your targeted loot accordingly. Wish you nothing but the best of luck. Now, the reason this is so effective is because of its Talent Pack instincts, and that is going to give you a crit hit chance and or a crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit, and when you're rolling in a group, you can have all 3 of those running at the same time. It's absolutely insane. Now moving on to the body armor, it is the first of 3 pieces of Lengmo, and we're running 3 so we get all brand set bonuses because we are targeting that third one, which is 30% LMG damage. We're using the talent Obliterate, where critical hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Now, one thing I'd like to point out with this build is that a lot of these pieces are not even close to being fully optimized, and that's because I just picked up some of this shit the other day, and I got to keep farming to upgrade it. You know what I mean? So even if you do not have a perfect build, it can still get the job done. Next, we have the holster, which is the second piece of Lengmo. Moving on to the knee pads, they are the Fox's Prayer knee pads. We are using these for that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. Continuing on to the gloves, we're using the Contractor's gloves, 1 piece of Petrov. That's going to give us that extra LMG damage bonus, plus that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor. Last but not least, we have the final piece of Lengmo. We're using the Backbone Backpack, and it has the talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force. And with that talent, killing an enemy is going to increase total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. And I'll also point out the fact that this has hazard protection. I don't want that. I'm trying to farm for a double crit Backbone Backpack. I do not have any luck whatsoever. Gonna keep at it, my fellow agents. Moving on to the skills themselves, I'm using a combination of the Assault Drone and the Banshee Pulse. Finally, if I happen to be using global modifiers, my active modifier is Overdrive. We have Microwave Coils, Aggressive Drone, and Critical Recovery. Now, as we make our way to the gameplay footage, I want to mention the fact that even if you do not use any global modifiers whatsoever, this build is still going to get the job done. And if you happen to use them, remember it's all relative. Yes, you are stronger when these are active, but so are the NPC. I mean, they have a faster movement speed, faster rate of fire, faster armor regen. It can get sideways really quick, so make sure you keep your head on a swivel. Hope this video helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and commentary. However, as always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Good morning once again, my fellow agents. I gotta get used to running with this weapon, but man, I'm addicted. Do me a favor, let me know in the comment section how many of you out there just find yourself, and I know I said this earlier, just using the same weapon over and over again, then you actually switch to something different, totally changes your gameplay. And then you kind of realize how bad your aim is, at least I do. But anyway, one thing you'll notice really quick as I leave you with the footage, that I do not have the global modifiers active. Now, as you've heard me say previously, I'm running with them pretty much non-stop, but I always want to highlight the fact that you don't need them on in order to put builds together. It's something that is insanely fun to use in my opinion. But once again, to be very clear, they are not required for any build whatsoever. It just makes it really fun to use if you happen to turn them on. That's it for my part in this video, my fellow agents. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I'll see you in the next one.
Your target. Target neutralized. Good work. Thank you for keeping us safe, Agent.